It'll recognize me with this. I love that bass guitar.
Me too, man.
That's a good riff.
It is. It is. It's good stuff. That's why I haven't changed over to anything new. Because I'm a classic kind of guy. You know what I mean? I find something I like, I stick with it, I run with it. It's burned into my brain. I just like it.
As long as it works, right? As long as it works.
So here we are again.
Whoa! Speaking of Brent, he's in the chat.
Yeah, we got some early arrivers. Here we go.
All right.
So welcome to the HVAC Grapevine Show. I am Chris Hughes. To my right is Eric Kaiser. Below us is Michael Cianfrocco.
What's up, guys?
Hey,
If you're curious where we're from, I'm from Louisiana. And Eric, you're over there in Indiana, am I right?
Yep, dead center in the middle of Indiana.
And then Michael's down there in Florida. So
yeah, Florida. Born and raised in Ottawa.
I don't know if we've ever said that before on
Ottawa.
the show. So I was kind of like, why don't we just throw that
out
there?
Whoa. Ottawa what?
I'm a Canadian.
What?
You don't look Canadian. You don't wear enough. You do not wear enough flannel to be a Canadian.
I joke around with some of my customers. I go, yeah, I was born and raised in Canada. Yeah, right. And they're like, huh? No, it's New York.
Oh, okay.
You totally pass as a New Yorker. Like, and the classic New Yorker in my mind. Like, I've only been to New York twice, and like I have this vision of meeting New Yorkers and they talk like you, walk like you, and everything. And I get there, and that's not what I get. And I'm kind of like disappointed deep down. I'm like, damn,
I'm a bad stereotype.
I want the full stereotype New York experience.
You know what's really cool is
the right spots.
Before I left New York, my accent was so bad, even New Yorkers didn't know what I was saying.
Yeah,
I sound like Rocky with like five drinks in.
Oh, guys, we got a birthday in the house.
Oh man!
Oh, snap!
Happy birthday!
We have to sing happy birthday today.
Dang! No, I can't do that.
You start, Eric. You start.
I just don't have that skill set.
Who brought the cake?
Yeah, it's my dad's birthday today. By the way.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
really? Happy birthday!
So if you know my old man, because he's in HVAC, you know what I'm saying? He's a soldier, been in the game like his entire life. Give him a shout out if you're another HVAC tech. His name's Marty Hughes. Go find him and blow him up.
What's up, Marty? Happy birthday, man.
He's coming down to the symposium with me this year and, coming to stay at the Animal House. What? It's going to be a good time. He's going to be doing a cookout. Me and him, we're going to be doing the spread at the house this year.
Nice. Oh, I saw that. That wasn't a joke, huh? All right.
No, it's no joke. We boiled a bunch of Cajun peanuts down for all the guys coming to hang out. Yep. Going to be a good time.
That's in what, January this year?
January.
Nice.
That's Brian Orr's symposium. So if you don't know about it, you should probably come out from underneath the rock you've been living under and investigate because it's pretty awesome. And
it's sold out yet or what?
Speaking of events, tonight's show we are talking about an event, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about the HVAC Heat Pump Summit.
Heat Pump Summit, no HVAC, just Heat Pump Summit.
Right. Oh, okay. Well,
just by association.
And I've got it pulled up and I'm looking at it and it looks like Eric Kaiser right here, the man, the myth, the legend, is speaking at this event.
I'll be there.
Right.
Yeah. And Bill Spone. Yeah. He'll be there too.
Papa Spoon's there.
Guys, we got the creator of this thing, and I'm going to bring him in.
Sweet,
Mr. Brent Davidson. How are you doing?
Hey, welcome, guys. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Brent? Tell us, Brent. Let's get started, man. What encouraged you to put a event together of this magnitude?
Now,
let's go to the beginning.
This is the first. This is an inaugural event, right? This is first time this year. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's the first one, and it's the Heat Pump Summit. It's a contractor event for training and conference content out here in the Bay Area. It's in Berkeley, California, November 13th. and it's obviously heat pump focused and heat pumps only, both for air and water, and just trying to get great information out there so you guys can be putting their installs in much more expert level, getting great training, and then also bringing a bit of the Bay Area kind of building electrification community out as well. So a little bit of a mix, but still a lot of great contractor focused stuff.
Yeah. So tell us, Brent, where does your journey begin to? Where does this start for you? You know, like, did you come up doing trades, come up in tech, come up like a college route? Like, how'd you come up, and how do you find yourself coming into playing a role in HVAC?
Yeah, well, I'm a little bit of the odd duck on this call, I'd say. My background's in software, so I've been doing software in a variety of capacities for the last 10 years, and then since about 2019 in solar. And that was utility scale solar, doing some pretty advanced automatic engineering and finance tools to be able to kind of pull up Google Maps and draw a box and then have a 100 megawatt plant drop down in there. So I was working on that, a big solar company, moved on to doing some startup stuff. And through that, got involved with some HVAC startups out here in the Bay Area, and just really started piquing my interest on heat pumps. And this combination of efficiency and all the way more interesting than I realized engineering problems in HVAC that really appealed to me. Just kind of bit the bug a little bit. And at the same time, I was trying to play in the startup land for a long time, been looking at different business ideas. Wanted to start something, and then just saw a need and opportunity for this event to get both great training content out there, but also be connecting the community a bit, to these emerging startups, new technology, kind of what the San Francisco area is all about. And so, just saw an opportunity for this event. And that was around the 4th of July. Sent first couple of emails about it. So I've been busy, but Bill Spone was really the first one to see, an opportunity and a need in what I was starting to put together, and came in early with support and introduced me to Eric. And now we've got a full speaker lineup, and we've got Pace Supply coming on as a title sponsor. And for folks in other parts of the country might not be familiar, that's pretty much whole California statewide distributor for all kinds of great plumbing and air equipment. And the community is really starting to come together.
That's cool, man.
Cool. So
that may be a record for putting together a brand new event like this and getting it that full that quickly.
Yeah. Can you plan me a birthday party, bro? That's freaking awesome.
Well, I have been working on it full time, just to clarify this. I've been going without pay while I'm kind of taking a venture out here. But no, it's time. I was excited to just be creating something from scratch and find that product market fit. We say a lot in the tech industry, and we create new products. And I was coming with some network, certainly on the solar side, certainly on the kind of regulatory side. I have a bigger network in that. I was starting pretty much from scratch though in the core HVAC network. So it's been great to see how friendly this industry is in my experience. Obviously, there are some heated direct head-to-head competitors, but overall, it feels a bit like joining a family once you start saying, "Hey, I'm just trying to help out and do something." The community has really rallied, made a lot of introductions. And we've got all the big rebate networks in the state. I know obviously we got listeners all over, but it is an event in California, 40 million people. We're kind of our own country out here in some ways. And all the big networks.
Yeah, we joke about California. Like, if you're in HVAC and you've been in the field and you haven't heard about California, then you ain't been in the field long enough. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know there are a lot of
all I hear is
California. What's your best one?
Yeah. California is unique.
Yeah, dude. If you could next summit, man, bring it to the East Coast. I got guys in Florida that own businesses say, "No, I don't work on heat pumps," and then some guys are afraid of them, man.
Interesting.
Yep. So regionally, you get some weird stuff, dude. I mean, California might be completely different, which it usually is, but I got guys like, you should be afraid of a heat pump, man. I mean, just a small beginner course. I think you can get an HVAC guy up to speed. But
I mean, they've only got a few more components than an air conditioner, right? And they work.
Yeah, but that's us talking, right? So who knows?
True.
Yeah, it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's cool, man. I dig what you're doing.
And I'll say I'll give a good crossway to that. Like, I don't know how to program. I don't, and I desire to. And my buddy, who's actually in the chat, Michael Hausch, he just started writing some articles out there. So if Mike, if you're in there, go ahead and drop a link in the chat for us. But he put out 2 articles recently. I just ran them out a couple hours ago in my terminal of my Mac, right? So I'm scratching the surface, and it's really cool. And I would ask a million questions to him right now about like, why this, why that. I'm just going to wait on that next article. And I know if I stick with it and I get down the road like half a year to a year, I'm going to be like, man, I was ignorant. Right. But I don't know it.
Mike digs deep on that programming stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's interesting stuff.
But he writes well. It's like, within 2 articles, I feel like I haven't done much, but I feel like I've absorbed a lot really quickly, because I'm like not having to go sit in a classroom and listen for 4 weeks. And after 4 weeks, we've learned to open up terminal, and that's it. It's like, no, we're 2 articles in and we're coding something. So I like what he's doing. Mike, I appreciate you. I had to give my shout out.
There you
go.
Brent, I was going to say, in terms of location, I've already in reaching out to different companies and, seeing what's going on with heat pumps, both in terms of, just where we're seeing adoption and where there's kind of new government support for it. Yeah, the Northeast would be, I think, the next target if we have some success with this one. And then there's also, a fair bit of startup community around, New York and Boston, and trying to kind of do a little bit of that mix, kind of same thing like we're doing here.
So you're thinking for this is are you saying what you'd like to continue to do is drive this message by being the person who organizes the events around this and continues? You're saying you want to see more than one event a year. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, more than this one. And, like I said, I really, it's a long story depending on how much time you're going to take on it, but got into software through being really excited about energy and seeing some technology around demand response back in 2011. I studied journalism and finance, and also an unusual combination, even longer story. And just ended up diving into the software side of it. And then after pursuing some different career experiences, so I was like, all right, it's finally time. Did a professional development program called the Clean Energy Leadership Institute, which is a bunch of nerds. And then dove in deep on the solar side. And so in one way or another, I've been trying to wave kind of a combination of an efficiency and a climate flag for a long time. And, I know that a lot of people outside California especially don't really care about the climate flag. That's fine. I'm not here to tell you should. But, the efficiency gains, these things are just unbelievable. And so regardless of where you're coming from, efficiency is a hard thing to argue against.
Yeah.
Agree, but I'll go ahead, Eric.
I want to ask about efficiency here. You're talking about efficiency, right? And so this is an interesting thing to me about when we compare efficiency between 2 different energy sources, right? So we talk about efficiency with electricity, and we talk about efficiency with, say natural gas. We'll just use those 2 because that's 2 commonly used sources for heating. So when we talk about efficiency on those, are we talking about unit efficiency, like equipment efficiency, or are we talking about overall source to usage efficiency?
Like a question for me or the other guys?
Well, for you. I mean, you brought up higher efficiency here, and I'm curious about this. Because you've got a different viewpoint than a lot of us have on this, and that's something that I'd like to hear some other viewpoints on that about when we talk
because
about
we're all just technicians.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will preface that I'm not, some super fancy engineer, but in general, the way that I view all the electrification stuff, especially coming from the solar side, is if it's electric, you can choose your fuel source, whether that fuel is the sun, the wind, or a fossil source. And if you have a fossil based equipment, you never can make that switch. So even within, a 5-minute period, say a grid that like Texas or California that has a really wide mix of power sources, both renewable, fossil, and some other weird stuff like hydro. I say weird, not weird, but like statistically small, like hydro in most states, except for Washington, is like a small contributor. Even within a 5-10 minute period, that mix can shift, really significantly. So in the real world, that mix is going to determine that sort of efficiency. In terms of your end-to-end, your solar panels, about 25% efficient. That'd be pretty good. Brand new stuff overall, clean panels, etc. but it doesn't have to do anything. So you're saying, okay, saying 100% energy coming from the sun, 5% of that, putting that out through your house. If it's residential solar, basically no transmission loss going from your panel. Some engineer right now is probably going, no, there's transmission loss, but different than piping at 1,000 miles, from Wyoming to Illinois or wind,
exactly,
whatever. So, I'm not really going to be qualified enough to put a hard number to that, Eric. But in general, that's kind of the push around electrification, is that you can pick your fuel source more so than you can with a piece of equipment that's not only fossil, but specific to one type of fossil, whether it's heating oil or, propane or whatever.
Okay.
But feel free to rebuttal that.
I mean, no, that's a great viewpoint. I'm pulling other viewpoints out here so people can hear, because when we hear about efficiency, right, it's heat pumps are typically compared to electric heat, but we rarely compare a heat pump straight up to a gas furnace as far as efficiency, like what the energy, if we use a same energy source or whatever. And that's a much harder comparison to make.
Is it because of different fuel costs around the country? Is that,
Well, fuel costs are something completely different. We're just talking about energy efficiency here, as opposed to potential energy versus heat output. So energy input versus heat output.
Energy input. Okay. I follow you now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking cost per unit type deal. Okay. Gotcha.
That's a different deal. And efficiency does play a factor into that. Equipment efficiency does play a factor into that. But you got to do a lot of different calculations to figure that out. They can be done, but it's not just a straight up, a heat pump is, 300% efficient, because that's compared to straight electric heat versus a gas furnace that might be 95% efficient, because you're not comparing apples to apples there as far
as talk to me about gas furnaces versus heat pumps, because my market is lacking of gas furnaces. So like I have no knowledge, and it's sad because I was like, Mike, you should really delve into it, since you're kind of getting in a little deeper on certain subjects. You should know a little bit about gas furnaces. And I'm like, I don't care.
I mean, if you don't have to deal with
if you're not moving from Florida, I mean, you don't have to care.
Yeah.
I'm not going back.
I don't think the wave of furnaces are coming to you.
Yeah, that and oil burners. Oil burners. I'll just leave them up to
So
guys.
my brain goes in like a million different directions when we talk about this heat pump movement, and I hate to be the conspiracy theory guy, and maybe that's I don't know, I have nightmares of this, but like I think I'm okay with it as long as the sources are kind of diversified enough to where I guess I worry about hackers destroying the capability of moving power around.
The reversing valve company trying to take over the world or something.
I'm just saying, man, it's
straight cools versus heat pumps in my market. So it's like,
I mean, every time you watch the news, the hackers are in something. They hack everybody's Xbox, they get the codes, and before you know it, they're in bank accounts or this, that, and the other. It's not far fetched for them to get into the electrical grid and just say, "I'm just going to shut that down today." I mean, it can happen.
You mean like load shedding?
How could they hack the gas grid? Would it be any harder to hack the gas grid?
They could do that too. What I'm saying is, here's what I'm going to go into. I'm going to say I like dual fuel on a house, and I like dual fuel because I'm protected. I've got two options. It's like a car. Right. I like hybrid cars. Because I got two options.
You can still have a heat pump, right?
I could go to the store and run the battery 10 miles and go to the grocery store, or I could run the engine and go to the grocery store 10 miles down the road. I like having both options. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have both. I mean, you could just be all electric. I'm just saying, is there a risk there? Like, what is the level of risk that we have if this all becomes transmission lines and there's not a lot of solar or this or that?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say two answers. One, if you're really worried about it, you should be getting solar on your roof and, a couple battery packs, and not connecting those battery packs to the internet. And that's going to be your most resilient by far. To Eric's point, I mean, there's just a ton of control hardware that's controlling the gas distribution. Utilities are also vary on their level of security. I'm not deep enough to be able to comment on that, but I do know PG&E has their own internet. Their devices are not, we couldn't pull up Chrome right now and log into whatever some big substation. They do operate their own networks. We've had some physical attacks. I'm not aware if there's been a real digital attack. They've done a good job keeping it quiet. I'm not aware of something that's happened yet. I know they say it's a risk. But just sort of like we saw in Texas, like with the big freeze, 2 years ago or whichever year that was, all the different types of generation were affected in one way or another because the way the ERCOT rules were set up, it was, the temperatures dipped below the sort of requirements. So in some way, I think there's a threat to both of those. And same thing with the hurricanes and the power's out. What do we do with electricity? I can still go fill my car. Well, that gasoline tank's underground at your local, gas station, and it's electric pump that pulls it out. Now you can say you got to run a diesel generator, pull it, it's just pumping fuel. It's not that hard, get up 10 feet, whatever. But
right.
These systems are, maybe more or less resilient depending on the exact kind of viewpoint you want to take. And I would still kind of get back to the thing that, if we're assuming we're not in northern Canada covered in snow and it's minus 40, if you're in broad swaths of the country where, solar and backup battery storage on sites, going to be an option, say that's definitely going to be your best, most resilient setup.
So Louisiana, you don't need fossil fuel. That's what you just said. I'll translate for you.
You don't need it. You don't need it to heat your home. That's for sure. Or as a backup. There's no need to get a furnace in Louisiana, although there is a lot of them here.
Is that negative 40 Fahrenheit or Celsius?
That's a trick question there,
Eric. Smart man. I like it.
So I've been 10 years in California now, but I did grow up in Wisconsin, and I've seen it was minus 38 or minus 40. It was a while ago, but in Iowa, driving through the middle of the night. So I do have some familiarity with that end of the temperature spectrum or scale.
Dude, I went to Michigan one time, and it was like a different kind of cold. And I'm like, what is going on? I feel like I'm in the freezer.
I'd say it's not really cold until your nose hairs start freezing when you breathe in. Yeah,
it's like ice hockey. Yeah. Outside, yeah.
My headquarters is in Minnesota, and my boss was telling me that the only reason when they shut schools down is because they don't want the kids standing outside waiting on their bus and their eyes could freeze. And I was like,
oh, come on.
I was like, this is a real thing. And I'm like, what? I'm like,
your hair, if your hair is still wet from the shower. I mean, well, it's funny. I mean, it's all relative. My dad used to do a bunch of work up in Canada, and we're in Wisconsin. Oh, it gets cold here in Wisconsin. He's up in, I forget, Manitoba or something. And how cold it's got to be on the thermometer, before school starts getting maybe shut down. It was like minus 30.
That's crazy.
Well, let me tell you how
they close the schools here. Over here when it's like 50.
I was about to say, in Louisiana, if the weather even shows there may be a flurry, they're like, we can't take that chance. Shut everything down.
If you don't have the snow removal, I went to school in Missouri, and 1-2 inches of wet snow, they just don't have the snow removal equipment, so it does shut everything down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mike, it doesn't even have to snow, it just has to get cold. And people are like, you know what? It's too damn cold to work. Let's just hang it up.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
You must have been going to school in Rolla then, because that's further south, right?
So it's a good measurement for a heat pump, though. If your town shuts down when it gets cold, if your town gets shuts down when it gets cold, you're in a heat pump town. It's perfect for it.
That's
the judge right there.
That's pretty good, actually. That's a pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I could speak at the event, man. You just let me know, and I'll talk about towns shutting down and everything.
So why don't the manufacturers just get rid of straight cools, man? Just go heat pumps only.
That's a good question.
I'm gonna say price, because I think they would have a huge rebellion in people complaining about the price.
What are they gonna do?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
we don't make them anymore.
Here's what I'll tell you.
I went on New York crime boss.
Like smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
I just made a big deal.
I'll tell you, I went on a red carpet tour one time. This has been some years ago, and I got to sit down with like 6 of the engineers that worked for that were designing equipment residentially. And I was talking to these engineers, and I was like, man, you know, it's kind of annoying. I said, I hate to be, you know, the guy. Y'all probably hear this all the time, and they're like, yeah, we do. I'm like, but why did I was like, man, swinging the electrical board and everything out of the way to get the motor out of the way. I was like, if y'all had just put like 6 more inches of wire, you know, I could have just got it really far out of the way.
Yeah.
And pulling that motor would have been so much easier. And they're like, yeah, we totally get it. But our bosses said that 6 inches of wire would have costed another 5 cents per unit, which might have been another $1 million. And we didn't win. And I was just like,
peanuts on the airplane, baby.
And that's the first time I was like, man, really? Like decisions are made based on pennies over like y'all micromanage the build to that level. And they're like, oh yeah, like it all amazing. Matters. And I'm like, golly, I was like, no wonder we don't get what we want in the field.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. 6 inches of copper wire on millions of units. Yeah. It's crazy. It is.
I'd battle back to that though. Like I think there's some manufacturers maybe play the game a little differently. I hope they do, but like I would hope that some are like, you know what, we're going to spend that little extra because we're going to be recognized as a piece of equipment that's not just going for price, going for accessibility, maintenance capability, and all that, and they get recognized for it.
Not everybody thinks like York, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm not even gonna. Yeah,
you
can say that.
I mean, I still got a cut on my hand because it's so thin, you know, the cover. So,
yeah, I mean, there are some contractors or some manufacturers that think like that out there, and I know one place I work for, you know, at a distributor level, their brand, like they completely redesigned their units based on contractor feedback.
That's cool. You know, I mean, a little bit of feedback, and they make a change. You feel like you got a voice, but. Dude, why do they not make condenser cover panels out of composite or plastic? So if there's anybody out there in manufacturing land,
I can tell you why. Go back.
You know how many times I was afraid I'm going to hit the 220 pulling that damn thing off?
All right, go back.
Putting it back on.
I'm sitting there thinking, like, what's he talking about? Like, why would you want it? And then I was like, oh yeah,
peanuts on the airplane. I save you a couple million right here.
Go back.
Give me a penny
back.
on that.
Yeah, Mike, go back and look at late 2000s Lennox units.
Oh,
they made that whole top
really
full out of fiberglass,
or plastic, or I think it was fiberglass. But what happens is
get rid of the capacitor. That's right.
It sets out in the sun, and the sun puts out this funny thing called UV.
Yeah, I heard of that thing.
That's what we get energy from through solar panels.
Yeah.
Brent likes this UV stuff.
And it just chews them up.
Dude, we had a Tempstar unit. So Tempstar is ICP, and they made a fiberglass hood.
And what happened to it after about 5 or 6 years?
To spray it with some shellac.
Why?
Because it was itching.
I go in there, dude. It's like an old 1985 boat, man.
Because it was like a 5-year-old extension ladder that you left on top of your van.
Dude, you freaking nailed it, dude. It was way worse than fiberglass.
Although I think we just stumbled onto a business model. We should be selling some type of shellac for fiberglass ladders. That way you can coat them and they can last longer on your roof.
Well, manufacturers should go to fiberglass and say, "Hey, your unit shot, it's too itchy."
That's another story that we can go down, Chris. But we got a guest here. We got to talk to this guy.
Man. I know.
Let's talk about heat pumps, guys. Come on.
Heat pumps.
I was just going to jump in with a nerd fact, Eric. That UV, as I understand it, is not really absorbed by solar the wavelength is too small or something like that, and so it actually is pretty much just the visible.
No kidding.
If you really want to get nerdy on it.
No, that's a nerdy fact right there.
It's only absorbing the visible light.
Yeah, I kind of known this. I just Googled it to refresh. It's between 400 and 700 nanometers, and if you pull up your infrared spectrum chart, that's pretty much square in what the eyeball sees.
Is that UVA, B, or C?
Well, no, this is just visible. So UV would be above 700, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That's crazy.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Then, all right, so I'm full of nerd facts. So the next one, so you definitely could do it at composites, but it costs way too much to not bake because all your new brand new airliners are composite and they sit up way above all of our atmosphere and just get roasted beyond roast.
Wow!
But look at
a lot of radiation up there.
Look at
but
the
it's pretty
cost.
expensive coatings.
Yeah, that's your problem right there. One,
Yeah,
it's an expensive coating. Two, it's an expensive composite. And three, they do inspect those things a little bit more thoroughly than HVAC units get inspected.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I would argue, but you could have like out of 5 transatlantic flights is probably equal to like a year's worth of ground-based UV exposure once you're at 38,000.
Oh yeah,
yeah, probably. But
anyways,
you want to see the price of your equipment go up?
Yeah, slightly.
let's make some composite panels and throw some airplane paint on.
Man, all I heard was I need to make sure I close the window on all my flights. You know what I'm saying? All I could think about is all that UV just.
Chris on the flight with a tinfoil hat.
Yeah. I'm gonna come to the show and y'all gonna be like, Chris is really tan on the left side of his face, and y'all gonna know what.
Fellows at Infowars.com.
That's pretty funny. But anyways, Chris, you were gonna graciously segue back to me as your distinguished guest.
Yeah, man. Tell us about the summit.
So like I said, there's 2 main tracks. One's the conference track, and then the training track. And then it's not on the website yet, but we're adding more of a classroom size kind of side training room for some manufacturer trainings. And it does cover air and water. Started out obviously a bit more on the air side. There is obviously a bit more to talk about, more complexity, et cetera, as we've gotten more into it, where it's traveled. And so now we've got some of the water manufacturers involved. And I don't know when this will air. I guess we're live now. So if you look at the website that right now, then a couple of the brands that we've just, secured last week, whatnot, are not up, but there'll be updates to the website. And yeah, like I said, the goal is that, anybody, whether you're doing a heat pump now, you're thinking about doing them, you can come get fully up to speed and also meet other folks who are, doing it and wanting to do it at a high level. If you look at the training content, it's all just website's just all just one page. So you just scroll down and see training for contractors. And kicks off with a gentleman named Larry Waters out of the greater Bay Area here, Vacaville, California. He's been selling heat pumps only for 3 to 5 years now. I forget the exact number, but he's a real great dude. He's a real great evangelist for the technology. So he's gonna be giving people a bit of an overview of, what's that you're not going to kill your business if you stop selling gas equipment, basically. And then we got, some of Eric's people, the Measure Quick team, coming in to be talking about commissioning. And Eric, I shouldn't even try to describe with Eric on the call. I'm going to screw it up. But, basically you got to commission precisely, to not do stuff like burn up motors in a year and make sure that, all your duct works, appropriate pressures. And so that's a ducted talk. So anyways, I'm not going to go through the whole thing out of sight, out of memory, but that gives you a little bit of an overview, of some of that content. And then on the conference side, there's still all very tactical. I'm telling all the speakers, even though we've got some people that are like from Google Nest who kind of go to some of these higher end, building conferences where these big words and whatnot, I'm telling them, hey, it's a tactical information. You got to be putting relevant content out that folks can use, the next day and have some kind of ROI on that ticket. But good stuff there, Chris.
So will there be some residential talk and also commercial talk, or is this more geared toward residential only? Or?
It's really geared towards residential, and that's not because I've told the commercial people to get lost. It's just that there's so much more residential, going on, and it's obviously it depends on what metric you use. By dollar volume, maybe commercials bigger. I don't know these stats off the top of my head, but
well, heat pumps making huge waves in commercial. You got VRV, VRF. I think a lot of people may get lost on the terminology when you hear heat pump or VRV or VRF. That's heat pump, or you can have heat recovery. You got inverter-based systems. I mean, that's all playing in that space. And the terminologies, there's more terminologies being used that cover the heat pump movement in commercial that I think it's not like that in residential, really. Residential, it's like heat pump, inverter-based heat pump. And then that's it. While in commercial, you get more and more, acronyms moving around. Some of this stuff is the heat pump movement, but you may not hear it as this is a heat pump system you're about to get,
Yeah. And I think, from what I've seen, residential is probably struggling a little bit more with heat pumps than probably the commercial space is in some instances.
For sure. Well, I would argue that a little bit. There's a lot of commercial contractors who are struggling to onboard VRV, VRF in their business model because it's technically challenging.
They
to
are,
get up
but
to speed.
Most of those contractors are generally not actually the ones designing or selling the systems.
Yeah.
They're only installing them.
That's true.
Now, or servicing them
Oh,
afterwards.
100% agree. But I would say even installing them, it's a game changer for them, right? Everything they're used to do. Like companies who, and I've seen this firsthand, you have companies that are big, but they're chiller companies. They run chill water pipe. This is what they do. They've done their whole life. Second generation, third generation people coming into the business, and they fall into it. And you got your welders and all this other stuff. Then you try to take that same team and say, hey, we're going to do a VRF install. And they're like, what? And then they'll
need a laptop.
And I will blame this a little bit on maybe the company, because the company thinks, even the head honchos of the companies aren't necessarily saying, hey, let's go get everybody trained. They're thinking, well, if we can do this, we can do that. And it's like, no, not quite. No. It's a big difference.
No. You got to follow a lot of different rules with VRF. So
it is
doing that.
The rules have changed a lot. How you pipe it, is radically different. So, a lot of different piping rules.
Yeah. And everybody that's piping that stuff needs to be on the same page. So
yeah, for sure. It's mission critical. But it is making a wave for sure. Residentially, I think heat pumps is I think for residential, moving into the inverter-based heat pumps is an easier movement for a company to do with their technicians, right? I mean, there is classes available. I feel like there's more classes available for that movement than there is in the commercial space when it comes to the other stuff.
Unless you're in Miami.
And there's still a lot of companies out there that don't want to sell heat pumps, that aren't selling heat pumps, that are scared of heat pumps too. And I think events like this are really catered towards those companies, especially on the residential side, because that's where I see a lot of companies scared or not wanting to touch heat pumps yet.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you think it is the heat pump itself or the controls movement that's got them scared? Right? Because there's two things kind of happening, in my opinion, at the same time. Like we had heat pumps from the past. They never went away, but they're still here, but the game's changed a little bit. And then all of a sudden we took legacy wiring away from technicians and said, now we're going to wire everything to communication. Right? And so there's the communication protocol movement and a heat pump movement at the same time.
I see those as two very separate things, and these companies aren't even doing heat pumps because there's still a lot of legacy wired heat pumps out there, and you can still get legacy wired heat pumps. You can get inverter heat pumps that are legacy wired.
Yes.
Okay. So that is one piece. And you're right. There's also a lot of companies that don't want to do anything with communicating systems, especially proprietary communicating systems. And that's a whole different ball game. And, we've talked about that before, that, there's some challenges in that side of the industry and that side of the equation for sure.
So you're talking about like communicating heat pumps?
Yeah. I think it's just, I think that's the ultimate challenge is, you got to get companies not only up to speed of how the heat pump works, but communication. Because I think a lot of companies haven't made the move to learning communication.
I don't even know if it's communication. I think a lot of it has to do with control logic, because the communication is not a big deal. It's all about understanding the logic behind the controls, and whether you're doing conventional wiring or communicating wiring, the logic is what controls everything.
Well, in my area, usually the communicating equipment, heat pump or straight cool, is usually our higher end equipment. So it's just something else you could offer.
Yeah, the companies that aren't doing heat pumps don't do communicating or non-communicating.
I think you nailed it, brother. I think that's if they don't do communicating, they're not doing heat pumps. Yeah, they're
typically
they want to keep it simple.
Yeah. Now,
so like in my area, if somebody has a heat pump, I will quote them a heat pump, and then the next guy, what's he quoting? He's quoting straight cool. He wants to beat me on price. That's normally what I see in my area in Florida.
So I'm gonna switch gears for a second, and I'm gonna go back to Brent and say, Brent, I'm gonna encourage you to go watch our show, episode 10, called "Cut Me Some Slack." So in that show, and I'm gonna give you another drum to beat, man. Boom, boom, boom. Right, here we go. Something that I think should be presented at your conference by somebody, and I am not the guy, but somebody. You need to find the right guy, and that person needs to start beating this drum. But the community that makes equipment and brings it to market with their controls, and that show is kind of all about that, is there needs to be an easier way to get the systems at 100% so we can commission the systems. Now, I'm not going to beat this to death because that show beat it to death, but there is a problem right now. And I have, I've did some ride-alongs with companies, some top techs, to be honest with you. And we go to the house, and I don't know everybody's brand perfectly. I know a couple brands, right? But I've did some ride-alongs, and I'm like, oh, I don't know the controller of that brand. And I'm like, can you put that thing at full capacity so we can check it out? And then the tech will go over there, and he'll go do his thing. And I'm like, I'm watching to learn that brand's control sequence. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, are we there? He goes, well, yeah. I mean, I'm in test mode. I'm there. And I'm like, yeah, but how do we know we're there? Like, right. He's like, I mean, I don't know. He's like, I think we're there. He's like, I told it to do it. Basically, you have to trust he's been told in his training class that by a guy who also doesn't know 100% to know when the equipment's at 100%. So it's the blind leading the blind on the control logic. And these controls have no super transparency that says your fan is at this, max capacity. Unless your compressor's at this max capacity. Like, maybe Train, I don't know.
Train, you can go right on the TAM9. You can go to the CDA and you can see what airflow it's at, or almost the estimated airflow.
Almost every communicating system I've looked at does have some feedback. You just have to know where to find it at.
Okay. But it's not always easy. It could be way easier.
Yeah, and I agree.
Right?
But Eric, that's like the IRS agent saying, "Oh, it's so simple. You just take Form 97, Form 45, put it over to line B, and then you're done."
Fill them out in triplicate, submit them to us. We'll throw them in the round file, and we're never getting back to you ever.
But it's not just the fan though. It's the fan and the compressor. Yeah, and you need them both.
Right.
And this gets a little tricky because some of these compressors can overramp. Right.
That is true. Never
you
thought
want them
about
at 100% for cool mode. You won't, if you're going for cooling commissioning, you want to lock it in. I'm just saying transparency needs to be there. That's a big hurdle, I think, in the marketplace right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a big hurdle in the marketplace for sure.
Yeah. Everything's a secret, man. It's crazy. But I tell you what, I got a customer for you. If you want somebody to speak up, I've got a customer. We went from a heat pump to a straight cool. I downsized the unit, did a load calc, did a blower door, right? And we went down to, I forgot, it was 3.5. I think we went to a 3-ton inverter. And she decided this year that she's going through menopause or something. And she wants to heat at 75. And she gave me her bills for the last 5 years. She always kept it at 68, 70 degrees, right? So she calls me up like the third month it was installed, and we got into winter here, whatever that is in Florida. And she's like, yeah, my bill. Yeah. My bill was like $300. I was like, Nancy, what are you setting it to? She's like, wow, this year I'm setting at 75. I was like, all I got is a 10 kW heat kit in there. It's going to eat up some juice, man. So you're going to have to put some socks on, honey,
Yeah.
So, but she's like, next unit, we're going with a heat pump for sure. You don't know if you're going to set that temp higher. And I tell all my customers about that. I tell them about her.
I'll say that this is why I think the heat pump movement's kind of coming as well as my utility bill has definitely went up, almost doubled. It's been doubled, and nothing's changed on my house. And I know my system is running, like a top, but
same here, man. I've been going up.
It is now.
It is, well, not right now. But
no, I mean like
mine went 40%, I think.
Figuratively now, because I know you had some problems with it here.
Yes, that's problems fixed. We're running.
Okay.
But there is some control logic that's confusing. I will say that. Haven't got down to the bottom of that. But I've commissioned it with other tools and I know what it's doing and it's putting out. But the hurricane hit our area and they're like, we're not gonna tear up your bills. Don't worry about it. Yeah, right. Like that money is just being spread to everybody in the region and everybody's picking up the slack for all that money spent. I've heard Florida's getting hit the same way.
Dude, I'm getting slammed.
So like
man.
utility bills are getting crazy. They're getting crazy high. So people
Yeah.
are going to have to look for ways for either, you can optimize any way you can, permanent load reduction by air sealing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or, get a heat pump, cut down some costs on the winter size,
Yeah.
get rid of electric heat if you can. So yeah, heat pump movement makes total sense for most of the country. And I see the wave coming because I think utility bills are going up. Or I don't know. I can't speak for everywhere because I haven't done the research, but they're skyrocketing here right now.
Yeah, it's bad, man. And you know what's cool about the heat pump for the train? I don't know about the other units, but for some reason, the train heat pump will modulate down a little lower to 25% compressor speed. The straight cool does 30. And I know that's not much, but it was interesting. It has a little bit more, RPMs on that compressor. And, it's better than 10 kW heat, man, for electric, especially these days, man. It's crazy.
Let's go back to this. Let's go back to the vent for a minute. Brent, let me ask you a question and put you on the spot, man. Who are you ready to see speak at this thing? It's your first event. Like, I mean, probably tons of rock stars, right? Like, are these people like idols of yours? And you're like, man, if I could get this person to speak, heck yeah.
But I have my knee-jerk reaction might be somewhat unsatisfactory. There's so many different rebate networks in California. I keep saying I'm gonna have to attend all the trainings just to understand whose rebates are from which organization because they all have the same name. They all sound so similar, and it's this big web, and that's part of the appeal of the event. That's fairly California specific. So I have to say that's just because that was why I was laughing of what I'm excited to see. I would be remiss to not say that it's Eric Kaiser. Clearly Eric Kaiser is.
Oh wow!
The
pinnacle of HVAC speaking and knowledge, and of course it's Eric Kaiser. Are you kidding?
Well, man, he learned everything from me. So, I mean,
gotta respect the mustache.
Taught him what he knows,
I'm excited. I'm excited to just be doing something where, there's a lot of free afternoon trainings people can go to the manufacturer house and whatever. And what I'm excited to be doing here is hosting this kind of a bit more comprehensive event across several types of content, across several sort of categories. Like I said, it is primarily a contractor event. We do have a lot of the trainings, like I just mentioned Eric, but also the Measure Quick team and Ben Nope and Larry Waters, and people are, doing this stuff in the field. We have on that conference content a bit more about like demand response and power flex market, which is in California, where you can get paid to be putting on equipment that'll, on those 2, 3, 4 days out of the year where the grid is really stressed from a heat wave, we'll pull that power back a little bit and aligning those incentives so that contractors can get paid for some of that performance, which they haven't been able to previously. So I just nerd out on some power side, the grid side of stuff, and I'm excited to get this group together.
Have you had anybody ask you this question? Let's say someone can't make the conference, and I don't know what your expected limit of availability of tickets sold is, but if somebody wanted to watch these speakers online, is that going to be an option?
It's not currently going to be live streamed. I'd like to record them. That's a little bit lower lift. The event venue has some options for that. And we got to kind of see a little bit where we're at with the budget and whatnot. Yep. So it's not going to be live streamed. That's a bit bigger lift, but I think we'll definitely one way or another, we'll record them.
Cool.
Because that is the downside of an event is you got to be there to get the event.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I know a couple events that, that over the years that this event has kind of happened, it didn't start that way, but after a couple shows, eventually they kind of did start trying to do some, like a friend of ours, Brian, he started doing that. I don't know if he did that on year one. But as it went further down, you remember, Eric, how he did that? I
think
know now.
He recorded them on year one, and then they went out on YouTube later. He didn't do the live tickets year one. I think year two was when he started doing the live stream.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
and but offering that virtual ticket.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I like this is interesting to me, and
Are you going to his brother's event? No, all right. Yeah. I'll bring that up here.
Yeah, let's not bring that up here.
So it's I don't know. I
love that guy. That
this
guy's
is overlapping something with me, so I won't be able to attend it. But there's some people I'd like to watch and hear what they got to say. You know.
Yeah, there's going to be some interesting.
I'll just have to bug the hell out of Eric.
Who's gonna be there? Is Papa Spoon gonna be there?
Papa Spoon said he's attending.
Okay,
yeah, he'll be there. Hired. I don't think he's not speaking at this.
No, we don't have him.
Oh, okay, so he's just showing up.
You get me.
Yeah, that man is awesome. I got him in my will. He's good people.
Yeah, well, I believe ResNet's, I guess, the next day. Is that correct, Eric? So you guys are coming out. You guys are hitting both in one trip.
2 days afterward. Yeah, so it starts. Heat Pump Summit's on Monday, and then ResNet's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So there's a day in between to travel.
Yeah, easy. There you go.
Yeah.
Chris, what content catch your eye? I'm curious. Back here.
So I'm looking at, and I'm gonna share screen. Give me a second.
Yeah, I knew he was clicking on something. See that? He's doing his taxes.
Let's see if I can. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of tech, man, my taxes. For some reason I'm paying and I shouldn't be.
I used to work at TurboTax, by the way. So
nice. Yeah, Brent, can you fix that for me, man? I shouldn't be paying all these taxes. So these are what I'm seeing as featured speakers of the event.
Tom Selleck.
This.
Oh, Eric Pies.
Man, I'm curious. I think I'd like to hear with this guy, Google Nest, Will Baker. I think I'd be interested to hear what he has to say because of what I was just talking about with control logic and all that. Yeah, that piques my interest. And I'm curious to know if he's going to talk about load shedding or something like that with his controls, like and demand response. I'd be curious to know if he's going to go into that. I'd be super interested to hear his take on that. I'd like to know if he has graphs on that of projections, how it can be handled. I would imagine their company has done a lot of work looking at the grid, looking at where the grid's going to go and how to handle that. And if demand response is going to play a huge role in that and how they're going to handle it. And if he's going to go into that, that would be super interesting. That's what I would want to hear if I was going to go. So that's my first person that I'm targeting.
I
don't know. I'm trying to think.
Got Joe Medosh in there.
Joe Medosh, yeah,
that's probably familiar. That's one of the usual suspects.
Larry Waters, Electrify My Home. That sounds super interesting. Sounds like somebody who's been there, done that. I'd be interested to hear what he's got to say for sure. I mean, it looks like an all-star cast right here, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we got a couple more that I haven't put on here. Need to get a picture of them. Need to get around to doing it. Jane Melia from Harvest Thermal. Have you guys heard of this? They're a startup. They've been around a couple of years. They've made it past like the first year. I think they've been around 5 years maybe. It's basically heat up the water when the price of power and the grid is clean. When the price is cheap and the grid is clean, and then use that for obviously water heating, but also air heating later in the day. And then she's going to be on a panel with talking about demand response. There's a company called Recurve that runs what I just mentioned. Demand Flex, Power Flex, demandflexmarket.com. You can check that out. And that's really going to be talking about demand response. Will Baker is the Google Nest guy. His talk is a bit around just why you should be using a smart thermostat, with a heat pump. And he says it'll be agnostic to Google or, we're not, these people are not paying, to get on stage to promote their, content, to promote their products here, obviously. But yeah, he said Google Nest just spent about a year and a half really dialing in a big update to the heat pump controls for their kind of predictive part of their technology. So taking domestic
interesting
known
stuff.
for, and then really making sure it's performing right for obviously the differences in performance between, a furnace and a heat pump and whatnot.
I'm curious to know, this gentleman, Philip, with ARC he's the co-founder of ARC. What is that about?
Yeah, they call it Arch. And
Arch. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Arch, the idea there is that it's getarch.com, like GET, Arch.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea there is that you could do a sort of preliminary heat load without visiting the house. So a combination of pulling property records and any kind of,
dude, that's what I do, man.
How do you do it?
I will do, it's like almost like a pre-screening.
And what's your method?
So like if somebody calls and they're having like building science issues, I won't tell them. I'll do a property search, get square footage, and maybe run a quick cool calc and be like, all right, is this an issue that I need to really push on the customer, or should it just be like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, for me,
man, I'm going to nickname that right now. We're going to call that a ghost load.
The ghost load.
The ghost load. It's the sneak attack, man. You're going into your customer,
bro.
And they don't even know what.
It gets me in what mindset I should go as a consultant. What's the best for the homeowner?
Let's just go ahead and put that on Wikipedia when the show's over, Mike.
Okay.
Let's make sure we get ghost load in there,
because we just found out that Wikipedia, you can kind of change a few things.
Yeah,
we're a little slow on the time.
We're updating. We're trying to update. Right,
Wait, so real quick, so what piece of data do you pull in if you're trying to ballpark a heat load without visiting the house? What pieces of data do you pull in that, and how do you then just put that into an existing load calc tool, or how do you do it?
So I'll do my local property appraiser. It gives me square footage, and then if I want to get really silly on it, I'll do Zillow, or I'll do like a real estate. Because Florida, the house has been sold like 75 times. It's only 4 years old. So I'll get pictures, dude, on every room. So I'll get window values if I want to.
Yeah, yeah.
Or Cool Calc, auto simulates a low, medium, or high window load, right? So you could just roll with it and see where you're at, And then if I go there.
How long does that take you?
Oh man, it's quick with Cool Calcs, man. It's like what you do for solar, right? Solar has what you did. I'm sorry. Right, you get that Google image, and you kind of it's a draw and trace. So 15 minutes, Yeah,
it's pretty fast. I'll leave. I don't know too much about Phil's product, but the idea is obviously to beat that. And I don't know, I'm not sure if everybody's getting that ambitious, but it's smart, and that is similar to what they're doing. Property records, and just call all these generally publicly available data.
I love it. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. And then my pricing, they are pretty early on right now, and I don't think that they have a publicly available tool yet. I think everybody that they're working with is coming to the beta. Here's the caveats, kind of. I'm not even sure they're charging yet for it. Pretty early on.
But don't get me wrong, man. I've been doing this for a while, so it's a little second nature to me. I'll have like quick links. So if somebody had like 30 vans or something like that, they had software for it.
And there's some level of prioritization of if you could say, hey, every phone number that calls for anything, we pull up an automatic heat load calculation and try to figure out when
that'd be awesome
service lasts.
Because like if you get a load calc, a quick one for a 2-ton, and you get there and it's a 5, Jenry Garcia's favorite sized unit, you get an automatic red flag for just where to go, because time is, when you're with the customer, time is crucial. And you get some customers that just like, as soon as you come to the door, they want to be somewhere else. So, time is golden, man. So,
yeah, no, that's a good point. Makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's cool.
Well,
get 2 thumbs up on, was it ARC?
Arch. Yeah, there's really 2. There's Get Arch, and then there's another one called Conduit, and I believe it's getconduit.com. So I think we're starting to run out of URLs and names for companies.
So this is cool what you're doing, man. I love it.
But Conduit's using like the LiDAR capabilities of the new Apple devices, and so you walk into the home.
Oh, dude, we were talking about that
a
couple months ago. Yeah,
we should try to get her on.
Michael House was talking about.
Sure, should be happy to, and she was on Bill's. No, I forget if it was Shelby or Marissa that went on, but whoever's doing the search.
Dude, that's cool stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, Brent, anything you want to leave us with, man, before we shut this show down for the night?
I appreciate you having me on. Like I said, check out the website heatpumpsummit.org, November 13th in Berkeley. And we're really excited about getting everybody together. And, like I said, the response I've been getting from, the industry out here, and it's been really good. I've been really surprised. And that's what's enabled this event to be pulled together pretty quickly. So we're starting to get off the ground here with a decent bit of early ticket sales. We're still 2 months out for our first event. So, it's not like we got the event sold out yet. And I wouldn't expect to based on, how the event business works. But a lot of great promotional channels lined up for all of our folks in California, in the rebate networks, those Tech Clean California, Clean Energy Connection, Golden State Rebates, Comfortably California, Bayren, Peninsula Clean Energy. I could go on.
He's like a machine gun. Get it. Go.
Yeah, you could tell, man, you're in this they every day,
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's just been fun to pull together. And so that's the whole goal of, an event.
Yeah.
You can sit here and watch YouTube, but you come to the event and it's not only the presenters, but also the attendees, that you gain value from in meetings. So
yeah, go to event, man. If you're a technician, don't be a wuss. It's good rubbing elbows with people, man. It's different. It's
just
different.
go say hi. And everybody's there.
Yeah.
If you're shy and you've only been to 1 or 2 events, everybody's there looking to meet people, and
people want to help too.
Exactly. I got my first job by just showing up early, 2 hours early to big conferences and saying, hey, I just graduated college. I'm trying to get a job. Can I help you guys out for the morning and then have a free ticket? And 9 times out of 10 that would work, because day of events are always crazy. And then I would just go invite myself into conversations. Hey, you guys must be here to meet people too. And so anyways,
you guys got to really attack the market for technicians. Don't be a wuss. Don't be afraid of a reversing valve. Don't be scared. It's just a damn valve, kids. Come on, grow up.
But you might want to be